Good day, it is so good to be with you. I'm Jackson Mitchell here from Brooklyn News headquarters. We're coming on the air this hour with breaking news. We're learning as soon as today the Senate could vote to reopen the government. That is what we're learning. What we do know from, according to a Fox News reporter, Chad Pergam, to be specific here, that the Republicans could vote to overturn the filibuster as soon as today. We did our reporting on this on the filibuster on an edition of Your Daily Brief. That's essentially what is stopping the Senate from passing this continuing resolution and funding the government, because they need Democrats' support, at least 60 votes in support of this bill, meaning they will need Democrats to vote in favor of this, and not enough Democrats have done that just yet. We're getting some more reporting as well from MSNBC saying they could vote to reopen the government on Monday. So that could come as soon as today on the filibuster, Monday possibly on reopening the government, but also to see if they overturn this filibuster, do they kind of get do they pass it tonight? We're learning that vote could come as soon as this evening. Something else I want to note as we're talking about this, the Senate is actually in session. Take a look there. Possibly voting on kind of different things. The House has been in recess for now over 6 weeks, I believe. So I think we might be going into week 7 or 8. What I do want to do here is take you to a video that we are getting in. I'm wondering if I'm able to show you guys. We're going to start with the Fox News reporting. I should be able to show this to you guys with audio. Let's take a listen there. That is my computer screen now. Let's see if we have audio and we'll listen into this reporting.
On Capitol Hill, as the Senate tries to finally put an end to the longest shutdown in history. Chad Pergram, thank goodness for all of us, is tracking it all closely. Do you have good news, Chad?
Well, they're not quite there yet, but they're getting closer potentially to ending this government shutdown. Here's what we've learned in just the past couple of moments. There is going to be a test vote sometime this evening to break a filibuster on a new Republican spending plan. This would fund the government on a temporary basis through the 31st of January. It also provide money for Congress, legislative branch appropriations, also for the VA, military construction projects, and also the Department of Agriculture. They would be fully funded through the end of the fiscal year, so next September. Here's what's going to happen in the next couple of hours. We're going to get this bill text. They were hoping last night, they were hoping Friday night, it never came. But we're told that that's going to come sometime in the middle of the afternoon, probably between 2 and 4 this afternoon. And then they could go to a test vote no earlier than 6 p.m. tonight. Now, that test vote is of paramount importance. Here's why. Because if they get 60 votes on that, and the Republicans are increasingly bullish about this, if they get 60 votes, meaning they have to bring over some Democratic senators, we are ultimately on a glide path at some point in the next several days to end the government shutdown. Here's what would have to happen. There are 53 Republican senators. Rand Paul, the Republican from Kentucky, he has been voting against the other interim spending bills, so they might get down to 52. But if they get 8 Democratic senators, or 9 or 7, if Rand Paul votes for this, whatever the vote matrix is, then they get to 60 votes. That is a test vote. And then, presumably, they would set up an agreement to have a final vote on this. If they did this absolutely by the book and all the parliamentary traps that they would have to run, that would run this out in the Senate until the end of the coming week, probably Friday or Saturday. That is not going to happen. But if they get those 60 votes, and I'm told that this is a fragile coalition of Democrats who are willing to reopen the government, then they probably should be on a glide path later this week to get this through the Senate and then move it to the House of Representatives. Here's the other question that's not fully answered right now. We keep asking if there's an agreement on Obamacare. There's nothing. It seems to just be a wink and a nod and the pressure of trying to get the government back open. Jonathan?
Chad, that's the formal process you've laid out.
Okay, so that was the reporting again from Fox News' Chad Pergam there, as we see them both on the screen. Bringing back in kind of the full picture here, a possible vote to overturn this filibuster, but as you heard there, that Fox News reporter was mentioning this kind of disagreement to do that in the Republican Party. We've seen pushback saying, well, if in the 2026 midterms, Democrats take over and we Republicans have overturned the filibuster, then that would lead to that would lead to Democrats doing kind of whatever they want because they don't need Republican support to do certain things. They wouldn't need that filibuster rule. And to add, that's why it is in place. So let's take you now to an MSNBC clip. Two kind of opposite sides of the political party reporting here. We should have it now. Let's take you there now.
Say, and what does this mean?
Well, Alex, it sounds like there's been major breakthrough in the last hour on Capitol Hill. Senator John Thune said today that there will be a vote to open the government. The exact contents of that vote we still don't know yet, but Senator Markway Mullin predicted that we could see a vote within the next 4 to 6 hours. Take a listen to him earlier today talking about negotiations.
There's a couple things that we did negotiate with to get the Democrats' votes. I think we will have the votes. Of course, you never know, but I believe we'll get there because keep in mind, Ag Bill also has a SNAP program. And it's going to be very, very difficult for them to vote against that.
They're telling us we'll put money in, whatever money we agree on for a continuing resolution to fund the government, but we're telling you in advance we are going to rescind the funding you want. And we need, in whatever agreement we reach, to have some really solid guarantees in that legislation that they simply can't go and renege after it's done.
Now, MSNBC reported on Friday that there started to be cracks within the Democratic coalition. A group of about 10 Democrats met in Senator Angus King's office on Friday for about an hour. And this comes after we've reached day 40 of the shutdown, with now the economic and human toll seeming to mount. But the exact context...
Okay, there is MSNBC's reporting. Let me pause that here. Again, as we were just saying, is key to kind of what we're learning today, because of, if you talk about the fact that that reporter there was mentioning that they were meeting in Senator Angus King's office. 10 Democrats were. Angus King, someone who is now multiple times an independent senator who caucuses with Democrats, multiple times voted on this continuing resolution. I believe it's over a dozen times, 14 maybe, if my math is correct there, that Republicans have called the vote in the Senate to vote on this continuing resolution that they won. As she was saying, a breakthrough. People are starting to see the effects. It's now the longest government shutdown in history. 40 days is what we're at right now. Is so key, so necessary for these people on SNAP benefits to get that funding that they need. Some people need the funding that is provided, need that bridge to go forward, and it looks like we've just lost my camera here. Let's take you now where we are seeing a senator speaking on the floor now. Let's listen in here and see if it might be about the government shutdown.
And the resources they need to fight and win, and the care they deserve when they return home. It's not...
Okay, we'll keep monitoring that. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the thought that I was sharing there as we take again look alive at the Senate floor, where a possible vote could occur to reopen the government soon. But again, as I was saying, a breakthrough here on and we're starting to see NPACs. Citizens are starting to see NPACs not seeing their SNAP benefits that they need. I want to talk about the full and entire story on these SNAP benefits. It's been something that's been brought up. Essentially, two states went to federal court saying, okay, people can't just go without SNAP benefits. Federal judges there say, okay, Donald Trump, you have essentially a rainy day fund that can fund these SNAP benefits. Then the Trump administration says, okay, we'll partially fund them. Court says, no, we didn't say partially fund, we said fully fund. Then the President Trump's administration files for an emergency order in the Supreme Court, arguing that that's just simply they can't fully fund. They don't have the money in this rainy day fund to go forward with this. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and the court saying, okay, pause the judge's order there, and basically saying you do not have to fully fund SNAP benefits. You don't have to fund them at all. Then we have the USDA saying, hey, all these states that have made efforts to essentially take what the federal government was giving, and their state government was going to kind of give more money in to fully fund SNAP benefits, saying kind of, hey, here, you actually don't need to do that anymore. Pause that. Pause doing that. Most of these states that were doing that were Democratic states saying, okay, we'll give a little bit of money out of our funding. We'll find the funds there to balance out and fully fund user SNAP benefits. So that is something that has been key here. That's kind of the full roundup on where these SNAP benefits are. It has been so messy. I think I can use that language here. Messy for users of SNAP. Again, November 1st, no money there. So, and at this point, still nobody on SNAP has received benefits to my knowledge into reporting that I've read. So that's going to be something to watch. The big news here, the Senate could vote to reopen the government soon. You heard there at the beginning of that, a few minutes ago on our coverage, we were taking a look at a Fox News reporting. They are saying that the Republicans could vote to overturn the filibuster. Would Democrats vote in favor of this? I was noting many Republicans push back, saying if in 2026, the midterms, Democrats win, this filibuster could be used in their favor, in Democrats' favor. So much to note, so much to talk about. And we're gonna have to see at this point in time where things go. Do Republicans ultimately decide to overturn this filibuster and fund the government, or do Democrats kind of come together and vote? There's been this secondary kind of, we're just gonna vote in favor of this, and then it has been a Republican idea here for Democrats, vote now on this continuing resolution, and we'll talk about the Obamacare subsidies, which is what stopped Democrats from voting in favor of the continuing resolution. We'll talk about it, and then we'll pass a new continuing resolution that has what Democrats kind of want in it. That has been the Republican talking point here. That is why Republicans have blamed this shutdown on Democrats. Notably, the House has already passed this, but I must note, a House member, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, now going against what Republicans said in the House on this continuing resolution, saying her constituents are struggling with and need these Obamacare subsidies because insurance premiums are going up in her district. She is the Republican that represents a piece of Georgia. So, lot to talk about there. There is so much about this government shutdown. It's now been going on for 40 days. I was saying a few moments ago, the longest now in history. The last longest, the one that this shutdown kind of beat essentially, was 35 days, however you want to say it. That was in the President Trump's administration, his first one from 2016 to 2019, if you recall that. So much to talk about here. So I'm just scrolling through my notes to see if I have more on this shutdown. Yeah. Okay. So again, MSNBC saying they could vote as soon as today, talking about that breakthrough. Fox News saying Republicans could vote to overturn the filibuster. Could that come soon? That is something that President Donald Trump has said that he essentially wants Republicans to do. But as I've now said a few times, now Republicans don't want that, because that could give Democrats an advantage if they take over later in a few years. So that has been something that has also been mentioned. So okay, let's see if we can talk about this, because I'm now reading a Fox News report, and I'm going to read it with you guys here. It says, Republicans unveil key piece of shutdown puzzle in bid to reopen the government. Let me do this, and let me pull up my screen for you guys so we can read it. This, again, guys, is Fox News reporting. Let me read it to you guys. It says, Senate Republicans unveiled a crucial piece of the puzzle in their bid to reopen the government and a plan to plow ahead with the vote on Sunday. While both sides still appear at an impasse on extending expiring Obamacare subsidies, appropriators move ahead with the package of spending bills that Republicans hope will jumpstart the government funding process and lead to an end to the 40-day government shutdown. The Senate Appropriations Committee released the 3-bill spending package known as a minibus Sunday afternoon. Lawmakers are still waiting on text for an updated continuing resolution that, if passed, is expected to reopen the government until late January. It includes legislation that would fund military construction and and the Veteran Affairs, or VA, the legislative branch, and Agricultural and the Food and Drug Administration. We heard Chad Pergram talking about what was kind of in this bill. Senate Republicans view the package as a sweetener that they hope attracts enough Senate Democrats to break through the logjam and move toward reopening the government. And given that the mini-bus is largely bipartisan product, lawmakers believe it could succeed. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, the Republican from South Dakota, made clear in the last few days that he would not put a bill on the floor that did not have the votes to pass after spending several weeks daring Senate Democrats to vote against the original House-passed continuing resolution. Quote, there's going to be something to vote on. Let's put it that way. That is what Thune said. Was it on? This is Fox News' the Sunday briefing. Did Senator Thune come on here? I'm sorry, was not watching this show this morning on Fox News. It does not appear that he was there. If you guys can see you were able to see my screen. I did not realize that it had froze there for just a second. I'll see if I'm able to fix it. There we go. It's fixed. It kind of does that sometimes, where it freezes up a little bit. So it's pretty easy to fix. So again, that is the Fox News reporting. If I'm reading this correct, this is an entire new bill. I'm gonna have to do my research on it. This is an entire new continuing resolution. To note, the House has been in recess for over 5 weeks now because they already passed this continuing resolution that's been struggling in the Senate. So would the Senate pass this, and then would it have to go back to the House? I am going to pose this question really quickly and see if I'm able to answer it. Okay, so yes, I'm reading this correctly. It says the Senate has not passed a new continuing resolution. Yes, that's true. To end the current government shutdown. However, senators are reportedly close to a deal that would involve a new CR and possibly fund full year appropriations bill. Yes, it says if the Senate were to pass a CR, it would have to first go back to the House for approval because the House must pass any legislation before it can be sent to the president. Okay, so what that Fox News reporting was indicating that there could be this new continuing resolution that was this sweeter deal for Republicans, less Republican action, kind of more on the Democratic side. And I'm sorry we're having some technical difficulties with our camera. My apologies. I'm not sure what's been going on with it throughout our broadcasting, and we haven't been on in a while. But kind of the answer to the question, yes, it would have to go back through the House. Sorry, I was just wondering if how would that work? Would it have to go back through the House, and kind of what that would mean? That is going to do it for our coverage, though. The big story here, Senate could vote as soon as this evening on in the next 4 to 6 hours is what MSNBC was saying. Fox News saying a possible vote to overturn the filibuster. I don't know. 2 different sides, 2 different reporters, 2 different reporting, 2 different stories that are being reported. So I'm going to watch it all. I'm actually going to turn around here and see what we have. No, okay, nothing on the government shutdown right now on the 3 major news networks, cable news networks at least. So we're gonna watch it. We're gonna see how it goes. You guys have been watching a Brooklyn News special report. That will do it for us on this Sunday. If the Senate were to vote again on reopening the government, you can expect we'll come back on the air either for that or after the vote passes or fails with kind of an update there. This has been a Brooklyn News special report.